C25 in Flint. This is Mid-Michigan Now.
Damage, debris, and devastation like you see right there faces several West Michigan communities after much of the region was battered by severe storms, including several confirmed tornadoes. You can see the damage to this strip mall in Portage. Good evening, everyone. I'm Stella Daskalakis. We first brought you this story at 6, and we've been following it all night long. Those storms, again, including tornadoes, damaged buildings, downed trees, and left thousands without power in Michigan. The city of Portage says shelters have been set up for those who are displaced this evening. The Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Office says an estimated 50 people are trapped in a FedEx building in Portage. First responders are trying to get them out. Governor Gretchen Whitmer has declared a state of emergency for 4 counties, and those counties are Kalamazoo, St. Joseph, Branch, and Cass, that is. Chief Meteorologist Eric Estreva joins us from the Storm Ready Weather Center with a first look at our forecast right here in mid-Michigan. Eric.
And Stella, the good news is those storms weakened very quickly as they moved closer to our neck of the woods. Now, there was some significant damage from those tornadoes down in southwestern lower Michigan. Several tornadoes reported. We'll see from the National Weather Service how many were actually able to touch down, because occasionally some tornadoes go back up into the clouds, touch down once again, and those will be considered separate tornadoes, even if they are from the same individual storm. So we'll see how many they actually are able to come up with, as we did have several storms that were rolling on through, and what the damage numbers were, how strong the winds were, what that rating is. That'll all come out either tomorrow or the day after on our Thursday, as some of this damage is significant. So it may take more than just that 24-hour time period. We are seeing quieter conditions. As we zoom into our current radar, there are some storms down to the south in central Oakland County. We also have a couple showers near Sebring, just to the north of Indian Fields. Everything is quiet in the Saginaw Bay region, but further to the north near Standish, into Pinconning, Deep Rivers, and Alabaster, this storm is moving in a northeasterly direction. So Alabaster, Oscoda, continue to watch this, as we do have a special weather statement for some breezy conditions and maybe some small hail to go along with the thunder and lightning and heavier downpours. We'll get to temperatures in the low to mid 50s tonight, with highs in the 60s and 70s tomorrow, under quieter conditions for our Wednesday.
Thank you very much, Eric. It is election night in some communities across mid-Michigan. Voters cast their ballots throughout the day. Polls closed earlier this evening. In Flint, there is a special election in the 9th Ward to select someone to finish Councilwoman Eva Worthing's term. She is facing a recall election, but is not on the ballot because she withdrew her name. 3 people want the job: Jonathan Jarrett, Catherine Irwin, and Paige Brousseau. Whoever ultimately wins will hold the seat for 2.5 years. The term ends November 18th, 2026. We are still waiting on results for this race. People in Flushing had the chance to vote on a school improvement bond issue. Flushing Community Schools is asking for up to $23.5 million. The money would improve safety, security, and instructional technology. It would also update the auditorium, HVAC, athletic facility, and the asphalt for the elementary playground. The proposal passes tonight 66% to 34%. Tonight, residents in Clio went to the polls to vote on a bond proposal for Clio Community Schools. That measure addresses, that is, key issues in the district. Mid-Michigan Now's Andrea Flores spoke to the superintendent of Clio Community Schools and is in the studio tonight to tell us more. Andrea.
Stella, the $8,700,000 bond focuses on safety enhancement and infrastructure upgrades to create a better and safer learning environment for students.
It's a $0 mil increase. So what we're asking the voters to do is still to continue to levy the 3.75.
Lisa Taylor is the superintendent at Clio Community Schools. She tells me 2020 was the first time the district had asked the community to approve a bond in 47 years. Superintendent Taylor says while the previous bond allowed them to make necessary adjustments, they still need upgrades to their early elementary building.
Our 3- and 4-year-olds, they're the foundation, right, for us, and we need to make sure that that the building they're learning in is just like the other buildings here in our district.
Superintendent Taylor says their main focus is addressing safety concerns and creating a comfortable environment for students to learn. Right now, their building does not have a vestibule nearby their office, which poses a security threat when buzzing people into the building. She also says the boilers, air conditioning, and bathrooms are in dire need of renovations.
Right now, when our boilers are on, I'd like to say I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. When the boilers are on, classrooms can be in the upwards of 90 degrees.
Superintendent Taylor says they will also be renovating the bathrooms in all the schools across the district and the auditorium, which hasn't been done since 2003.
Hopefully our parents and our community have been able to see all of the upgrades that we're currently doing.
So, Andrea, if it passes, and we're about to find out if it did, the question I have is, will residents' taxes go up?
Taxes will not go up in the city of Clio. It will maintain the current rate of 3.75 mils.
Well, we appreciate you doing that story. Thank you so much. Absolutely. With 100 precincts reporting, here it is. The Clio school bond will pass. Now get this vote total. 1,431 voting yes and 1,414 voting no. Very slim margin of victory. It's a difference of 17 votes. A bond proposal for Oscoda area schools passes 63% to 27%. The school plans to build and equip a new community center building, remodel the auditorium and existing school buildings, improve playgrounds and athletic fields, and more. For a complete list of all the races and results happening across Mid-Michigan, head to our website, midmichigannow.com. Some residential communities across the state provide another option to jail or prison, like the TRICAP program in Saginaw. Their executive director was in Lansing recently asking lawmakers for more money, saying they haven't received a per diem increase since 2021, while prices on everything have gone up. Mid-Michigan Now's Courtney Bennett is here with more on this situation. Courtney, how much additional money do they want?
Still right now, the per diem at residential communities like TRICAP is set at $65 per person per day. But for inmates in a jail or prison, the state per diem is $125 per day. Now, directors at these residential facilities are asking the state to give them an additional $10.
We've lost 4 programs like ours in the state this year alone because they can't afford to operate and continue to run.
Gary Davis is the executive director of TRICAP. He says what concerns him is these places aren't able to stay open because they don't have enough money. They can't afford to pay for the staff or the food for the people there.
You do substance abuse, you have to have licensed therapists and you have to have all these different things. Well, those people are very expensive, and the good people are going to be expensive. So.
Recently, Davis went to Lansing to ask for an increase of $75 from the state.
If we're not providing them, then I don't know who's going to provide them.
Alongside Davis was Christopher Brown, a person who knows firsthand how Michigan Corrections works.
I ended up going to prison, pay a debt to society.
Brown served a 3-year and 3-month sentence behind bars for domestic violence. After prison, he came to TRICAP in Saginaw.
I understand drug addiction. I understand being homeless. I understand dealing with mental issues and things like that because I've been around it my whole life if I haven't experienced it myself. So I won't judge them.
Brown wanted something different for himself. He says it was TRICAP and its intense programming that helped him. Now he works at the residential community.
I'm going to pick the group of people up today. I went to Lapeer first, then I stopped at Genesee County in Flint and grabbed some more guys. And I just had a conversation with them. You know, the benefits of completing this program.
Brown is working on a degree in social work. He says programs like TRICAP are needed to teach coping skills.
And when I get upset or I'm having a bad day or I'm feeling down, I don't run to get alcohol. I don't go get a drink. What I do is I go exercise. I go draw. I play the drums. I do several other things that make me happy. I read my Bible. You know, I do what make me happy. But yet it still is what I do ain't harming anyone else. It ain't breaking the law. And it's healthy. So that's why we need the funding.
Davis says they have seen the success in people who have come through this program. Lawmakers offered to increase the amount to $68, but Davis says they have asked them to reconsider the amounts. For now, live in the studio, Courtney Bennett, Mid-Michigan Now.
I'm Kayla Gaskins in Washington. Coming up, the announcement made today by President Biden on the White House's newest approach to combating anti-Semitism.
The U.S. is pausing shipments of bombs to Israel. The Associated Press is citing a senior member of the Biden administration for that information. The move is meant to signal opposition to an invasion of Rafah, which the U.S. believes would increase suffering and civilian casualties. Earlier today, Israel's military took control of the Rafah border crossing between Gaza and Egypt. During the Holocaust, the Nazis killed 6 million Jewish men, women, and children, along with roughly 5 million other people. Since then, much of the world vowed never again. President Biden is using this Holocaust Remembrance Day to address the problems of rising anti-Semitism in America. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins reports.
During Tuesday's event meant to commemorate the tragedy of the Holocaust, President Biden addressing a new wound for the Jewish people, Hamas's attack on October 7th, the deadliest day for Jews since the Nazis controlled Germany.
We're already forgetting that Hamas unleashed this terror.
Condemning what he called a ferocious rise in hatred against Jews in America, hatred that's seeped into protests on college campuses.
Anti-Semitic posters, slogans, calling for the annihilation of Israel. It's absolutely despicable, and it must stop.
Making a call for law and order.
Violent attacks, destroying property is not peaceful protest. It's against the law. And we are not a lawless country.
On Tuesday, the president announcing new actions by his administration to combat the issue. The Department of Education issuing new guidance to schools and universities as to what counts as anti-Semitic discrimination. Federal agencies elevating efforts to address community-based violence, like the vandalism experienced by this Jewish shop owner in Baltimore.
So it looks like they tried to put the beginning with the swastika. They did one side.
Or the 50 gravestones destroyed and damaged in a Jewish cemetery in Rotterdam, New York. Biden's speech Tuesday comes amid mounting criticism from all sides. For some Republicans, the rebuke wasn't quick enough.
What's not clear is why it took so long for President Biden to come to a microphone and condemn anti-Semitism. The reason, in part, is because his base refuses to let him do so.
Progressive Democrats increasingly side against Israel, but Biden says his support of the Jewish state will never waver.
On Wednesday, the House Committee on Education and the Workforce will hold a hearing to investigate anti-Semitism in K-12 schools. On Capitol Hill, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
And here at home, we continue to follow devastating storms in West Michigan, which included several tornadoes. This video that you see here in this damage is in Portage. You can see that damage the storms caused. Meanwhile, the Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Office says first responders are working to rescue an estimated 50 people who are trapped inside of a FedEx building in Portage. Governor Gretchen Whitmer has declared a state of emergency for Kalamazoo, St. Joseph, Branch, and Cass counties.
Now, your certified storm-ready weather.
And those tornadoes were very significant for this time of the year. The state of Michigan in particular, we'll see just how strong they were actually when the National Weather Service goes out and does those surveys tomorrow, and those maybe even extending into Thursday, depending on how much of an area they have to cover. Just with how widespread the damage has been and how significant it has been, it could take more than just a day of those surveys. And they are also coming from Grand Rapids, so that's a little bit of a trek down to Kalamazoo and all those affected areas. Now, this was one of the many sightings of the tornadoes in West Michigan, this one by Lori Higgins, just in her front yard, or at least looking out of her front yard there at the tornado as it was moving away, thankfully, from her house. But a lot of communities, a lot of cities and business owners, residents were not as lucky with those tornadoes being directly in the path of that storm. We are seeing quieter conditions, at least right now in the state of Michigan. Temperatures have fallen from the 70s and 60s out there earlier down to the 50s for a lot of us, but that's still warm enough with a little bit of humidity to produce additional thunderstorms. One such storm happening in our far northern communities, rolling into Iosco County as we speak, with a special weather statement on that. And then we also have a couple of those showers and storms over Lake Michigan, both of which will be with us for the next couple of hours before we finally clear things out as we go into the morning hours tomorrow. That special weather statement actually just allowed to expire. So while there could still be some breezy conditions, some small hail, definitely a lot of thunder and lightning, heavy rain, this is going to be sub-severe as it moves further to the north and east. We'll be near Baldwin by about 11:19, into Oscoda by 11:31, and Alvin by 11:42. As we widen the picture, it's a pretty significant area of low pressure that caused those storms earlier on today right outside of Chicago. That'll lift on off to the north. We'll see a couple additional systems that will rotate their way back into the Great Lakes in the Ohio Valley, bringing us additional activity on Thursday, mainly in the rain, in the form of just rainfall. Got my words twisted up there, but we will only see rain with that system as we look into the fourth day of the work week. For tomorrow, if you didn't get out there this evening with the cat, with the dog, any of the pets that are able to go outside along with you, we will have very good conditions. Our pet walking forecast pet of the day was Nikki, who maybe enjoys the car ride more than anything outside. If you are going to be walking, running, biking outside, if you can get the wind to your back, that may help, but wind right into you, or at least in your path, will be very strong. Some gusts will be upwards of 30 to 35 miles per hour. As that low continues to just sit and spin off to our north, we'll see that big pressure gradient straight through the state of Michigan. Here are a couple of those showers, lingering showers from that activity over Lake Michigan. Those will be falling apart as they move on through, and we'll just see primarily mostly sunny conditions for our Wednesday, with those rain showers as we look into the day on Thursday. Could see about a quarter to a half of an inch of rain before all is said and done going into Friday, and additional showers will happen on Saturday at 60 degrees. If you are not a fan of the 50s and 60s, we did mention that it was going to cool down for a few days. It will only be for a few days' time as we get back into the 70s come Monday into Tuesday, which is still above normal for this time of the year. Once we get into the mid-60s, I know Andrea was saying this is too cold for her. This is pretty typical for this time of the year.
Yeah,
so.
And we have nothing to complain about. I'm thinking of our friends in the 4 counties that experienced those horrible storms and tornadoes.
I know, working on the west side of the state, those are some resilient communities. So they'll clean up, they'll get back together very quickly, and it'll be like never even happened.
We'll be thinking of them. Thank you so much, Eric. And here's a look at more election results across mid-Michigan. The results will be scrolling at the bottom of your screen throughout the evening. And in sports, the Northwood softball team is getting set for its 3rd ever trip to the NCAA tournament later this week. Sam Ali has that story and so much more coming up.
For the 3rd time in program history, the Northwood softball team is heading to the NCAA tournament. The Timberwolves last went dancing in 2021, meaning that some of the seniors know what it's like to make the trip to nationals. And even for them, the nerves will always be there in the first few innings.
We've all just been reminding ourselves that's a good thing. That shows how much we care, how much we want it. Those nerves are super important, and keep saying to each other, there's no one better to be in this position than us. I've had someone remind me recently that in those moments of very stressful, think about the little girl who just wanted to play softball and have that mentality of, okay, you're doing it for her type of thing. So that part of it has been really keeping us together and relying on teammates for sure in those nervous moments.
Northwood will open up against a very familiar foe in Trevecca Nazarene. The Timberwolves took 2 of 3 from the Trojans this season, including an upset win in the GMAC tournament.
That's going to create some fire in their belly as well. We have to be up for the challenge, and because they're going to come and get us. But we're no longer sneaking by anybody. That's what this group has done. We have a target on our back, and we always see the best of the other team. And so we're used to that.
First pitch for this one is set for 1 o'clock Thursday in Nashville on the home field of Trevecca Nazarene. Will stay on the diamond as conference tournaments, they begin this week in college baseball. Northwood will look to defend its GMAC title, opening up tomorrow against Tiffin. First pitch at Prasco Park in Mason, Ohio is set for 1:15. And over in the GLIAC, Saginaw Valley State is the number 1 overall seed. The Cardinals will take on Purdue Northwest at 3 o'clock on Thursday at Jackson Field in Lansing. More baseball talk as the Detroit Tigers are exactly who we thought they were. After a red-hot start, the Tigers have cooled off significantly, featuring one of the best pitching staffs in the entire league, paired with an offense that's so fad, well, it's starting to get very offensive. Tonight, Detroit was back in Cleveland, trying to snap a 4-game skid, and for the second night in a row, the game starts with a leadoff home run, this time off the bat of Andy Ibanez. And the Tigers' second baseman was just getting started in this one. In his next at-bat, he blasts a 3-run bomb to right field to give Detroit a 5-2 lead. The Guardians would answer back with 5 runs of their own to retake the lead. But in the third, Ryan Vilade picks up his first major league hit to tie the game at 7. He'd finish with 3 RBIs, and the Tigers win this high-scoring affair 11-7 to end the 4-game losing streak. Let's talk some football as the Detroit Lions have signed veteran safety C.J. Moore to a 1-year deal. Moore returns to the team after serving a 1-year suspension for betting on football games. The 28-year-old was one of Detroit's top special teams players from 2019 to 2022 and adds depth to the secondary, which was revamped this past offseason through free agency and the draft. And finally, congratulations to the Grand Blanc boys lacrosse team who captured their second straight Saginaw Valley League championship tonight. The Bobcats topped Dow 13-2 to clinch the conference title. Grand Blanc is 13-1 this season and will be back in action Friday night at home when they host Lake Orion. And going back to the Lions, the NFL announced that the announcement for the schedule will be next week. We thought it was going to be Thursday. They said it'll be next Wednesday. And now it's a time for Lions fans to be excited. It used to be we don't want to know when we're going to have to watch them.
We want to know now.
Now they want to know. We'll see how many primetime games they might have.
Okay.
They're a team to watch this year.
They're taking it a little bit longer because they got to work it out.
Exactly.
Here are more of the races we are tracking across mid-Michigan on this election night. And as we get the results, you will too. They are scrolling at the bottom of your screen, and we have them at midmichigannow.com. Right now, here's a live look at downtown Flint from high atop the Durant Luxury Apartments. Eric gives us one more look at the forecast when we return.
Definitely going to be a completely opposite day compared to today. As we get back into the low to mid 70s, closer to Lake Huron, you'll be in the 60s, turning windy. Winds will be gusting upwards of 30 to 35 miles per hour, so hold on to the hats. You won't need the umbrellas, so don't worry about holding on to that. We will need the umbrellas, though, come Thursday. That's when some pretty heavy rainfall will roll its way back on in, but the good news is no thunderstorm activity, no severe weather expected then. We will just see plain old rain. It'll be more like a early spring sort of feel to the air on Thursday.
All right. And again, the governor declaring a state of emergency in 4 counties tonight after those storms. And we have not gotten an update on the 50 people trapped in the FedEx building. Stay tuned to midmichigannow.com. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. We will see you again tomorrow.